Creek Township Zoning Hearing Board meeting. Representing the township at the table on my far right is Matt Poos. Our court stenographer is Cecilia Mahana. To my immediate right is Bob Tanner, board member. To my immediate left is Regina Smith, board member. Sitting directly in front of me is Scott Calhoun, alternate board member. At the table down below is Rich Perhax, our board solicitor. And again, representing the township is Denise Pizarro. We're going to take the cases in the order in which they appear on the agenda. The cases 20-32, 3, 4 are for decision making only. And I'm sorry, 20-31 as well. So there's going to be no testimony on those. The first case we're going to hear tonight is case 20-36. When your case is called, we're going to ask you to come up to the podium, give us your name and your address, and very specifically what you're requesting us to consider, and give us all that detail. Any materials you show, we do have to keep for a period of 60 days, after which time you can retrieve from the zoning office if you so choose. We do have up to 45 days after close of testimony to make any or all decisions. We typically do make our decisions after tonight's close of testimony. We come back and typically come back with these answers. At this time, I'd like to ask everybody to stand and be sworn in, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you. Our first appeal is 20-36, Mark Flugel for property located at 4918 Dorchester Drive, asking for a height variance to construct a fence in the R1 single-family residential district, index 803-033. Okay, if you could first give us your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, Mark Flugel, 4918 Dorchester Drive, Erie, Pennsylvania, 16509. And in addition, I only have two.
Again, you have to get your voice up. This lady has to keep a record of everything that's said.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was dropping off a couple of plans that we had looked up.
Okay. Are these, Matt, are these what he's showing us in our packet?
I don't believe so.
The packet, I gave a quick look at it.
Anything, Mr. Flugel, anything, hello, Mr. Flugel, anything you submitted in connection with your application, we already have.
Correct.
So you only need to give us new things.
Okay, so the only thing
Yeah, no, that's the exact.
is the drawing.
This is exact?
Yeah, that may not be, but
Okay.
the package was sent to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, the binder that I gave you was all information you already have. I didn't know if you had brought that with you tonight, so I had to try a copy of it.
That's fine.
I'd like to thank you for your time tonight. As I said, my name is Mark Flugel. I'm here to ask for a variance, for a height variance for a 4-foot fence up to 6 foot. I live on a corner lot at the intersection of Dorchester and Gore Roads at 4918 Dorchester Drive. My intent is to install a privacy fence to allow our 2 small children and dog to play safely in our backyard. The property sits on an irregular corner on Dorchester and Gore, per the attached drawing. Gore intersects Dorchester at an angle less than 90 degrees, creating a smaller than normal rear yard along the south side of the property. Moving the fence back beyond the building limit 20 foot further would significantly reduce the largest portion of our usable yard and would place the fence back beyond our garage line and thus require a gate access to be installed along Gore Road, which is undesirable. We feel doing so would have a negative effect on the overall property value due to the reduced yard area and awkward side entry gate. Our desire is to build the fence 10 foot from the road, just behind the right-of-way, installation of a 4-foot tall fence, 10 foot from the road, would not serve to add any privacy to the yard for our children due to the fact that Gore Road is approximately 2 foot 3 inches higher than my yard level at 10 foot away. And you can see that in some of the sketches in the binder. A 4-foot tall fence would be roughly only 1 foot 9 higher than the road level, which is lower than anybody seated in a traffic position in their car, and would not offer any privacy. Traffic traveling along Gore Road would be seated several feet. I'm sorry, I misread that one. Additionally, the intersection of Gore and Dorchester is a 4-way stop. Traffic heading westbound on towards P Street often accelerates quickly and loudly from the stop sign, creating an unwelcome and unsafe environment in our backyard. The intent is to install a 6-foot fence to create a safe physical and noise barrier between our children and the road. Attached are some sketches, and I had that previously dropped off. SK1 and SK2 showing some details of the fence in relation to the house. Also attached is a catalog of similar properties in our neighborhood that have 6-foot tall fences or shrubs well beyond or within the 20-foot line on a corner lot. Moving the fence closer to the road would not be feasible because our neighbor to the west has a driveway at the back of my yard. Any closer to the road, met with her several times and discussed options about where best the fence would be set. 10 foot was kind of what we came up with to make sure that she could get out of her driveway safely, backing up, so she had clear sight back to the intersection. As I said before, traffic coming around the corner or through the intersection usually does so at a rolling stop and is often traveling well above 25 miles an hour by the time they're even in the middle of my yard. So we felt that 10 foot back was appropriate for her to be able to see in the road safely. I did dog ear the fence 45 degrees at the very end to give her a clear sight for any pedestrian traffic who might be traveling right there as well. I guess the strongest point I wanted to make was just the variance to the extended height based on the difference in the road level. Like I said, towards the east end, it's 2 foot 3 higher, and towards the west end, it does drop off, but not until after the significant drop off doesn't happen until really the end of the gate or the end of the fence there. The height difference at the other end is 18 inches. We don't feel as though a 4-foot fence is going to be able to offer any privacy. I'd like to have my children playing in the backyard. I do have 2 small children. One of my biggest concerns, not just in this fence, but every day, is that they're going to remain safe, and I don't want anyone to have free access to see and get to my children any faster than they would normally have. I feel as though a 4-foot fence being easily seen over would give someone easier access to be able to just grab my child and run off whenever they would want. Really, those are my big strong points, is just safety of the kids and some privacy. I apologize, I approached earlier. I did get a few letters from my neighbors stating that they did not have any issue with the 6-foot tall fence. These are just some of my immediate neighbors. I only got a single copy of those, so.
We're going to enter those only into the record because there's no way for us to weigh the value of them because
Sure.
we can't cross-examine them.
I understand, I just thought it would be a value.
Do you have anything else at this?
No, I was just going to ask if you had any questions that you'd like to ask me.
How long have you lived in this property?
Approximately 8 years.
8 years. If the request is not granted, what would you do?
I guess I was hoping it would be granted. If the request isn't granted, I would try to seek. Honestly, I would have to try to figure a way to make a 4-foot fence work with privacy and other things, but I just probably, I don't know.
So you could make a 4-foot fence work if this was denied?
I could build a 4-foot fence, it wouldn't be what I would put it on.
Okay.
I guess I can't make it work, no, I can build one and make that work, but it wouldn't serve the purpose I was hoping to obtain.
Is this, I just want to make sure, and you may not know this, but your surveyor would, is this within the clear sight triangle for the corner? This
No,
fence
it's
at all?
not.
Okay,
The you mean, is the fence
the fence,
within? No. No.
okay.
Is anybody in the audience? Scott, do you have any questions of this?
I'm good.
Okay. I do have a question of Matt Puzo, and in the packet that Mr. Flugel has provided us, he's showing us a photograph, and I don't know how accurate it may or may not be, of some neighboring properties that he's implying that a 6-foot-high fence was built recently in this neighborhood. Is that an accurate statement?
The township does not require fence permits, so I cannot establish a time when those fences were constructed.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that because of the mask. I apologize.
Sorry, I said that the township does not require fence permits, so without a permit on file, I cannot determine when the fences were installed.
Okay. Mr. Flugel, do you have any information on this one you've identified in here? One that you identified before Google Earth and post Google Earth?
That was just a kind of not a normal one for the other ones. I took to Google Earth to basically kind of identify some corner lots in Mill Creek, and specifically in my neighborhood, that would have fences installed within the 20-foot boundary on the secondary road. And as you can see in the Google Earth image, there's no fence installed on the one property, and then that's actually a photograph I took where now there is a fence. I don't know when the Google Earth image was taken, but I guarantee it was not before.
What's the location of this photo?
That is on Ruth Avenue, and I don't remember the intersection street.
Okay, so it's not right next door to where you're at?
No, I apologize. It's, I would say, about a quarter to a half mile, somewhere in that range away.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions regarding this case? Does the township have a position on this?
I have a question.
Sure.
For Mr. Poos also. So if a permit isn't required for a fence, people are putting up 6-foot fences on corners at various places, then why is Mr. Flugel here?
In general, when a fence is installed and it's not compliant, we get phone calls and we go out and make sure that it's compliant with the ordinance. In Mr. Flugel's case, we received a phone call regarding the installation of the fence at the intersection, and Ms. Maggio went out to investigate that and explain to the property owner what the regulations were.
So this fence is actually in violation of the township regulations,
Yes,
and yet you don't enforce it, is what I hear you saying? Or they don't have to get a permit to do it or anything?
correct. Yeah, the township does not require permits, but we do have regulations on fences.
So your enforcement is hampered by the fact that you don't know they're building it because they don't have to come in and get a permit first.
Correct.
I think the chairman's question is probably, okay, but once you know it's there, what's the process to do something about it, if anything?
Oh, we would, if we can determine that the fence was constructed, during the current regulations, then we would enforce the
Well, it
current
could be a
regulations.
non-conforming use.
Exactly. So, I mean, each case is a separate,
Depends on when it was
Use,
built.
yes.
Because the rules have changed,
correct. Yeah, so we
Yeah.
take each case separately because we have
which is
to,
tough because you don't have a permit history to show when it was applied for.
correct.
So you have to go by what somebody remembers.
Julie, you have a comment on that?
Just to clarify, the posts are constructed, the fence is not entirely constructed, and that's when we got the call.
You got-
Because the posts
and the
were
posts-
going up along the property, so we got
Mhm.
a call from a resident, and I went out to the property and spoke to the property.
And was it a call indicating there were objection of this fence?
The posts are very tall, yes, they're higher than 6 feet,
Oh, they're higher than 6 feet.
right around 6 feet or so. But usually when somebody constructs a fence, they cut off the posts.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. I apologize if I can interject. Two factors in that. They are tall posts, and it does look, I think they said they was monstrously tall. 12-foot boards were what was available because there's a huge lumber shortage. So predominantly, that was what I purchased. The other part of it was that 10-foot was going to be very close, and I had originally intended on trying to go as deep as I could. And by the time we got to dig into 3 foot through 2.5 feet of very hard dirt, we settled on 3 foot was good enough. So the posts ended up taller than what we had originally planned. Those are going to be cut, as she said. They're going to be cut off. There was never any intent to have a 8-foot tall fence or anything like that. In terms of starting on the fence, I had read 3.14 for fences and hedges, and read, I guess my interpretation was that a 4-foot fence was for the front line based on the verbiage for the normal, the road in front of the house was how I interpreted. So I did start constructing what I thought would be a 6-foot fence along Gore Road, and that's when we were approached by Julie and stated that that was in violation of code. So at that point, we put the remainder posts in just because we kind of had it all started at that point, and I have put cross bracing in, but the cross bracing is at this point purely to make sure my posts don't warp and twist. So I have not installed any pickets. Basically, I have just the posts and some support beams in between to keep them in place at this point. So we have all construction.
Okay. Any other testimony or anything for this case at this time? If not, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next appeal is number 20-37. Christopher Gallagher for property located at 1606 Pittsburgh Avenue, asking for a use variance for an automotive detail facility in the I-2 Heavy Industrial District, index 274-001.
Hi, my name's Chris Gallagher. My address is 1606 Pittsburgh Avenue. I'm looking to turn my warehouse in the building in the back into an automotive car care center where we do detailing, spray bed liners, and undercoating. I'm currently located in the front. My plumbing company's in the front of the building, and we have a huge warehouse in the back that's just empty that we'd like to turn that into that. I've never done one of these, so I didn't know how to prepare.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said I've never done one of these, so I didn't know how to prepare for this, so that's all I got for.
Okay, so describe to me your business. What are your hours of operation
For the detail shop,
for the detail shop?
would be a 9 to 5 operation,
5 days, 7 days,
6 days a week.
6 days a week, 9 to 5 even on Saturdays?
Yeah,
And what type of signage do you intend to have, if any?
yeah, it's out on the front of the warehouse. If you've seen the building, the warehouse is monstrous compared to the office in the front. So we plan on having a big sign on the front of the warehouse and then on the door leading into the warehouse.
Okay, Matt, what type of signage restrictions might they have with this property?
That, excuse me, that is in the heavy industrial district, so, I mean, the signage is fairly generous as opposed to some of the commercial or residential districts. And without an actual proposed number, I can't say,
Okay, but
but you're asking like in general what.
general, as long as he doesn't go nuts with it, if this is granted, he should not have a problem putting any additional signs up.
1 square foot for each 2 linear feet of building frontage.
Okay.
And that's for the building sign.
How many square feet of your building are you planning to?
I'm gonna say roughly it's probably around 10,000 square feet.
For the car detail?
Yeah,
Okay, so you're gonna, but I also heard you're gonna do detailing and. what was the other-
Undercoating.
Undercoating?
yep.
Okay, explain a little bit about what the undercoating.
It's going to be the fluid film. It's the oil-based undercoating that's a once-a-year product. It's environmentally safe. It goes. We're going to install a lift so we can lift the vehicles up and then spray the underside with the undercoating.
And if this was not granted, what would you do?
Just use it for my plumbing company.
Okay.
It's just a waste of space because I don't use it.
Yeah,
Rich,
Mr. Gallagher, what are you using it for now? What are you doing in there now?
It's just wide open. We had a tenant in there, and she robbed us, stole the mezzanine, and so there was a second level in the warehouse that's built with metal and iron, and she stole it. So I can no longer use the space like I used to for 2 levels of storage. So it's nothing now.
Huh.
Hey, Rich, your question?
Yeah, Mr. Gallagher, the existing building is used for your HVAC business, is that correct?
My plumbing and HVAC,
Okay,
yes.
now, your application makes a reference to adding to the back of the building.
No, there's no new construction.
You're saying this is incorrect then? There's no addition?
No, there's no additions. No, I'm not building anything. The warehouse is already there.
Okay, because I was looking for a plan for this addition. I now find out. is-
Yeah, no, yeah. I would have bought blueprints if I was building.
Right, okay, so you're not altering the building at all?
No,
You
no,
just want to use part of it for something that heavy industry doesn't allow?
I guess, yes. Yep.
That seems to be the case, okay.
I don't have any questions.
I don't.
Does anybody else in the township, or does the audience have a question? Anybody in the township have any position on this? Okay, Mr. Gallagher, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next appeal is Appeal 20-38, Anchor Sign Inc., for property located at 4234 West Ridge Road, asking for a dimensional variance for a wall sign in excess of the size of the permitted square footage for a wall sign in the C2 General Commercial District, index 406040.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me fine through this?
So far, yes, sir, thank
Okay,
you.
good. My name is John Gataski. I'm an attorney with Fox Rothschild. My address is in Pittsburgh. It's 500 Grant Street, Suite 2500, Pittsburgh 15219. We are going to have, I'll begin. I will also have a witness from Anchor Sign who's actually in Charleston, South Carolina, which is where our sign, I represent Dollar Tree. Anchor Sign is our contractor for the sign, and he'll be, and Mr. Poos said that he would be able to call in. I also have a few.
Sir, would you please wait? She can't take testimony while he's talking to your client on the phone, so just wait
I
a
didn't
second.
notice, I apologize.
I do have your witness on, and let me know when you want me to transfer him.
Okay, great, great. I also have some packets of exhibits, if I could approach it. They emphasize, I think they're pretty much the same thing, except there is one additional thing in here.
Okay. You've got to retrain me.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Matt, you're going to bring me over and come on over and show me what do I do. Good evening. Hello?
We're going to be keeping that.
Hello, could I get your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Josh McElhaney. I'm an Anchor Sign.
Could I ask you to spell that last name? Could I ask you to spell that last name, please?
Yes, it's N-U-C-K-E-L, V as in Victor, A-N-E-Y,
Okay. An address?
2001, Somerville Avenue, in Charleston, South Carolina.
Thank you. Okay, and as I understand it, you're going to be a witness giving some level of testimony. And Lydia, you're going to want to be, can you hear everything okay?
I can, thank you.
Okay. Okay, I'll let you start your case then.
Great. Thank you very much. May it please the board. I'm here on behalf of Dollar Tree, just down the road here, 5-minute walk. At 4234 West Ridge Road, there's a new Dollar Tree store going in. As we all know, West Ridge Road out here is a 5-lane highway. The property is relatively narrow. It's about 300 feet, 296 feet wide. And the setback where the Dollar Tree is going to be built is 110 feet. What we're here tonight is requesting a variance for a wall sign, specifically. I'll come back to the speaker. That sign with a total footprint of 101.81 square feet, which is approximately 59 square feet more than what's allowed under the code. We are not requesting, I want to be clear, any variance for the pylon sign that will be closer to the road. That sign we will be within code with respect to that. We are requesting this variance based upon the narrowness of the property and the need mostly for motorist safety. The size of the sign that we propose, which is the one in the middle there, is a 36-inch high letters and the 42-inch diameter round medallion, which is the logo of Dollar Tree. That's the minimum size necessary to provide for safety and to overcome hazards. In particular, it will allow passing traffic to safely identify the Dollar Tree, and Mr. McElvaney will be able to testify to that. Adequate visibility is a commercial necessity for all stores, and Dollar Tree is an essential business that would benefit the residents of Mill Creek Township and its residents. Now, what you're looking at here is the second one, and also some of this is in your packets as well. That would be the sign as it is required under the current zoning code. The signs would only be 24 inches tall, and it would be much less visible to any passing motorists and create that safety hazard. The proposed signage, as we all know, would not be out of character for this neighborhood. The Sheetz convenience store and gas station, the Quick Fill, Erie Bank, and the Brew Pub and Bottle Shop all appear to have either non-conforming signs or that were somehow grandfathered in. And the essential character of the immediate commercial area won't be changed. Obviously, there's the hospital branch across the street by allowing a slightly larger sign, and it won't impair the use of the neighborhood properties whatsoever, and the enhanced safety is beneficial to the general welfare. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask Mr. McElvaney a few questions. Josh, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. We're actually fairly far apart even in the courtroom, so if you don't hear me, or excuse me, the meeting room, if you don't hear me quite right.
If you want to come forward.
If you want to relocate,
I'm good as long as he can hear me.
okay.
Okay. Josh, can you identify for the zoning hearing board who you are?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing John.
He's asked you to identify who you are.
Where should I do this? So-
Oh, yeah, like I said, my name is Josh. I'm a team lead with Anchor Sign. We are a national sign vendor, and we do projects
Hold on
nationwide.
1 second, please. We're having difficulty because of my court reporter, who's trying to get all this information, can't hear or understand you. Does this phone move closer to you then? Let's see if...
I apologize.
Well, that's okay. Does this help you? Let's
Well, if you can identify himself.
identify yourself again, please.
Josh McElvaney.
Hey, Josh, I'm going to ask you to speak, please, just like you spoke, because we could hear you really clearly. And it's a big room, and you're probably about 12 feet from the court reporter, okay?
Okay, understood.
And you're with Anchor Signs, is that correct?
That is correct.
And who is Anchor Signs?
Anchor Sign is a national sign company. We do national retailers across the country.
And what's your title there?
I am one of the team leaders on the national account project management side.
And what do you do as a team leader?
As a team leader, I oversee a team of about 14 employees that handle specific brands that we work with, and that includes everything from design and intent to permitting and doing your due diligence as it relates to these type of meetings to coordinate with municipalities to get what the acceptable for their signage program.
And how many years of experience do you have in the sign field?
13 years.
And is Dollar Tree one of the teams that you work with?
Yes, it is.
Now, you worked on the packet that was submitted to Mr. Poos, the, and I'm making the title wrong, zoning coordinator?
Zoning development.
Yes.
And why was a non-conforming wall sign requested for this particular Dollar Tree location?
Ideally to provide, greater visibility for the business. I think you've already mentioned the 110-foot setback and the width of this property, just to make sure that we are giving motorists as much time to react and properly navigate safely to the location.
Can you describe for a little bit, we have the exhibits in the room, and there is Exhibit 1 that helps us. Can you describe just the details of the sign in a little more detail? We are looking at it.
Sure. What we're showing in Exhibit 1 is your prototypical Dollar Tree location. It's got the medallion with the stacked Dollar Tree copy. The sign is a set of individual elements. It's internally illuminated with LED modules. The faces are translucent, so that the light is visible at night and the sign will be visible. And we've flush mounted those or individually mounted those to the building. There is no type of raceway or wireway that is external. These letters go directly to the building, each one by itself.
Now, what would be the difference if Dollar Tree posted a conforming wall sign? We're also looking at Exhibit 2 in the packet as well as the poster.
Exhibit 2 would be the largest sign we could achieve in their family of signs, which we're showing at the 24-inch letter height. Same construction, it will be internally illuminated. Again, these are individually mounted to the building. The main difference obviously being the size and visibility for motorists. And as you can see, just if you look at Exhibit 1 versus Exhibit 2, Exhibit 2, the conforming sign is, for lack of a better description, it's almost lost on the fascia just due to the size of it. It's not very visible in comparison to the building itself.
Excuse me, could I ask him one question?
Absolutely.
You mentioned from the family of approved signs, so the smaller sign is used on other Dollar Trees within their system?
Well, each client has what they deem to be a family, if you will, and that's really for them, from a manufacturing perspective, so that we've kind of identified what letter sizes are going to be more easily reproduced. If we do a individual or a custom letter size for each location, obviously that no longer becomes cost effective for them as a business. But yes, the 24-inch set, to answer your question directly, is in that sign family, but it's not typically used on this size of a building. It's more for an inline inside of a shopping center where they would have a much smaller space itself, not just the property, but the actual lease space would be much smaller to use the size of sign typically.
Now, when you were evaluating the sign, Josh, did you make any determinations with respect to any potential issues at this location involving that smaller sign size?
Just again, the visibility on a 5-lane road such as West Ridge, we could create that safety hazard for the
Josh,
I lost him after just to give the visibility. It didn't.
if you can go back to visibility, and again, a little louder and a little slower, please.
I'm sorry, as far as visibility, what was the question?
The court report had lost you, and so we're just trying to get your testimony down. So if you could just go back as to why the visibility is an issue at this particular location.
Yes, again, the visibility would be very poor from a 5-lane road such as West Ridge. And again, it would create a safety hazard for the motorists passing by and potential customers.
Now, in your 13 years of experience with Anchor Sign, are there guidelines that you rely upon when establishing safe visibility standards?
Yes, we generally will use this whenever you're trying to calculate or come up with a true mathematical way based on the elements that you're presented for each
Okay,
location.
you're breaking up again, please.
Josh, yeah, you're breaking up, and you need to slow down and speak slowly and as loud as you can, please.
Because if we can't get it, we're gonna stop this, and he'll have to come to Erie to give his testimony.
Yeah, that's your option, sir.
Understood. So Josh, if you can go really slowly and just lay it out as clearly as you can, but very slowly and loudly, because yes, otherwise they're gonna ask you to come up here at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay,
We generally use the sign legibility rules as an industry standard to mathematically calculate what is a size of sign to provide adequate visibility.
and what goes into that process? Do motorists react in different ways?
I'm sorry, what was that, John?
Do motorists react in different ways?
Yes,
And can
obviously,
you describe that?
motorists, yes. The motorists, when they are driving, have several things that come into play. Speed, distance, and those kind of things impact their ability to see the sign and make decisions.
Is there a difference between perpendicular and parallel signs?
Yes,
And what is
the parallel sign is obviously more difficult to see because of its orientation to the road.
And are these signs that we're looking at parallel or perpendicular signs?
They are parallel to the road.
How did you go about determining the sign that we're asking, that Dollar Tree is asking for non-conforming use?
In the legibility standard, there's a formula, a mathematical formula that you can use based on several factors. Those factors are basically the number of lanes that you have. It also takes into consideration the type of sign that you have, whether it's illuminated or whether it's all caps. That will give you a legibility index number that you can use to calculate the height that would be required to provide an acceptable sign to the public.
And what size did you determine, using those standards and that equation, the letters needed to be for safe visibility?
The mathematical result of that calculation came out to just under 37 inches, which was 36.95, and we have proposed a 36-inch set.
So it's actually a little smaller than what the guidelines would suggest would be the appropriate size of the letters.
Yes, that is correct.
That's one question.
Sure.
I'm assuming part of that mathematical equation has to do with the distance off the road that the building is, correct?
Yes, that is also one of the factors.
So the site plan overall dictates what the size of these letters are. If this were a wider site with parking on the side of the building rather than in the front, and the building was closer to the street, the letters wouldn't have to be the same size.
Yes.
Okay.
Josh, are you there? Okay. Did you run the equation using the 24-inch signs that would be permitted by the ordinance?
Yes, we took a look at the smaller sign and even also ran the numbers for a two-lane road, given the same
And Josh, I know that we're not asking for a variance on the pylon sign, but is the pylon sign also smaller than what would otherwise be recommended by the guidelines that are Exhibit 3?
Yes, if we ran the calculations for the perpendicular sign, the freestanding sign, per those numbers, we would need to be at about 200 square feet in total area. But as you stated, we're not exploring that at this point, but per the guidelines, yes, we would need a larger freestanding sign.
Are you confident that the proposed non-conforming sign is the smallest possible to provide for visibility and safety of the public at this location?
Yes, we are.
And why are you confident of that?
As I stated, this formula and this method is used as an industry standard across the country to formulate a way to calculate mathematically the largest sign needed, giving the site-specific conditions to allow customers adequate time to identify and properly maneuver to get to the location.
Does the board or the solicitor or Matt, Mr. Poos?
Not at this time, but Lydia, do you have something you want to start?
I do have some questions, thank you.
And this is the township solicitor?
Hello, Josh, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
My name
I
is
can.
Lydia Caparosa, McDonald Ehrlich Attorneys, 100 State Street, Erie, Pennsylvania, 16507. Josh, I represent Mill Creek Township from the solicitor's office, and I do have some additional questions for you concerning the sign at this particular location. Now, there's been some discussion that the property is narrow, but it's really, there's nothing really unique or unusual about the shape of this lot, is that correct? It's a
To my
rectangular,
knowledge, yes.
sorry, I'm sorry, Josh, go ahead.
To my knowledge, correct. It's a prototypical frontage, but again, the width does present some challenges.
And there's nothing physically, there's no physical characteristics of the lot that present any issues with, constructing on this property that would necessitate a larger sign.
Well, as far as constructing on the property, I can't speak to that element, but given the setback requirement that they have for the building, and the way the formula calculates the allowable square footage as written in the code, it does present a challenge to be able to maximize and achieve safe visibility of the signage.
And I understand that the setback is 110 feet from the road, or rather from the property line approximately. But is that, a township ordinance that is requiring that it be set back 110 feet from the road? Or is that a design standard or choice from this building?
It's my understanding that that is the requirement of the code for them to build.
The front yard setback in the C2 district is 30 feet minimum.
So the 110 feet is not mandated by the code.
Correct.
Thank you.
Did you hear that, Josh?
I did not.
Okay, Lydia, do you want to explain what went there, please?
Certainly. Mr. Puz just indicated that under the ordinance, the required front yard setback is 30 feet. Under the ordinance, it's not 110. Did you get that?
Again, I did get that part of it. Having not been a part of the site plan development or any of those meetings, I'm not sure if the number of parking spaces or any other restrictions would have forced the building to be set back to accommodate those. I can't speak to that.
And I understand that, Josh, and I will discuss that with Mr. Puz after discussing this with you. With respect to the sign and where it's going to be built, there's nothing about the property that would prohibit Dollar Tree from constructing a sign that conforms to the requirements of the Mill Creek Township zoning ordinances, correct?
No, we do have an exhibit that shows a conforming sign.
So you could construct it in conformity.
Yes, physically it could be constructed.
And so there's really, the need for the variance is related to where the building has been placed. So you want to increase visibility.
Well, yes, correct, in order for safety, yes, ma'am.
And the sign that you presented as part of this application that you're requesting the variance for was selected by Anchor and Dollar Tree, correct?
Correct.
And I understand that you're not part of the design process of where the building has been sited, but if the building had been located closer to the road, would the need still exist for a sign this large?
Based on the mathematical formula, as it does take into account the setback, a smaller sign would be deemed acceptable. But given that setback, it does directly influence that calculation.
And I still see from your exhibits that there is reference to the pylon sign. I just want to confirm that sign will be a square footage, I believe it's exhibit 1 of 32 square feet.
Correct.
And Josh, that's all the questions I have for you at this time.
Rich, you have a question?
Yeah, Josh, Josh, my name is Richard Perhaps. I'm the board solicitor. I'm in a different office than Ms. Caparosa, and I have no horse in this race. But I have a couple of informational questions I want to ask. In your experience working for Dollar Tree, does Dollar Tree have different sizes of stores that they use depending on the market and the location, size of lot, and so on? They're not all the same size, are they?
They are not. They do have several different standards they use, but they are not all the same size.
Okay, is there any reason this particular location couldn't be used as a site for a somewhat smaller store than is proposed? Other than perhaps,
Again, that's not something I can speak to.
well, that would be a business decision, I take it, is that correct? It's not, has nothing to do with what you do?
Correct. I don't know what factors go into Dollar Tree selecting the site design
Okay,
for each location.
if they were to place a smaller building on this location, would that affect the required size of the signage based on your formula?
Not based on my formula, but based on the code allowance, which is based on the frontage of the building,
Right,
it would be smaller.
right, okay. And just so the record's clear, I understand you're not asking for any relief from the ordinance requirements as they relate to the pylon sign. But just so the record is clear, in addition to the wall sign that you're requesting the variance for, you also propose, or your sign plan for the property includes a 15-foot high pylon sign, 96 inches by 48, if I read the documents correctly, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and where's that going to be located exactly? I know it's reflected on the plan, but I'm asking you, well, let me ask specifically, how far back from the road will it be?
I would have to check the code to see what that setback requirement is. I did not calculate that or review that in preparation for this meeting, but we would be at whatever the setback requirement is.
Okay, it's going to be 96 by 48, 15 feet tall, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Those are all of the informational questions I had. Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
Lydia, do you have anything else?
I do have additional questions for Matt Waldinger and Matt Puz.
Okay. Okay, why don't you continue your testimony first? I'm sorry, let her build her case.
Certainly. Thank you. Mr. Pez? Could you please state your name and occupation for the record?
Yes, excuse me, Matthew Puz Jr., Zoning and Development Officer for Mill Creek Township.
And how long have you acted as zoning and development officer for Mill Creek Township?
It will be 3 years, January 8th.
And in your capacity as the zoning and development officer, you're responsible for reviewing applications for building permits and zoning applications?
Zoning permits, correct.
And in your capacity, did you review Anchor Signs' September 30th, 2020 application that was filed on behalf of Dollar Tree?
Yes,
And the application was to install one 101.81 square feet internally illuminated Dollar Tree sign on the entrance of the building?
yes,
And did you deny that application?
yes.
And for the board, if you don't have copies, I did bring additional copies, but if you have the application, Matt, in front of you, is this a copy of the application that was submitted by Dollar Tree, or Anchor Sign, rather? Yes.
Yes,
And if you turn to the third page, is that the notice denying the application?
yes.
And what were the reasons for the denial?
The proposed sign was 59.22 square feet larger than permitted.
And what is the zoning district for this particular property?
C2 General Commercial,
And what is the maximum square footage that's permitted under the ordinance?
for this sign, for this property, it'd be 42.59 square feet.
Now, and turning back to the application, the property is located at 4234 West Ridge Road, correct?
Yes,
And do you know the approximate size of the lot?
I believe 4.78 acres.
And generally, this lot is square or rectangular in shape, is that correct?
In general, it's a regular polygon.
And if for the board's reference, this page, there is a plat with the property located on,
Hey, are you looking for this?
not that one. It's in the middle of the packet, admittedly. I will have an exhibit that has a larger version of it for you all. And this parcel was subject to a land development plan, correct?
Yes,
And that land development plan was approved?
correct.
And during the course of the land development plan process, was a request made by you to Dollar Tree to relocate the building closer to West Ridge Road?
Yes, as the development coordinator, I did ask the developer if they'd be amicable to moving the building closer to West Ridge Road.
And was the building, did they move the building closer to the road in their drawing?
No,
And for this zoning district, what is the required front yard setback?
30 feet minimum.
Matt, this is a portion of the land development plan. It is not the full planning document. But if you flip to the third page,
You're going to identify this as Exhibit
Exhibit
what?
A.
Exhibit A. And you have one to give to
I
Denise?
did provide one to the attorney, and I have one for the bill. Have you seen this document before, Matt?
Yes,
And is this a accurate copy of the excerpts from the land development plan, rather?
yes,
And on the third page, I've highlighted it in yellow. but this would be the distance from the corner of the building to the property line, to the right-of-way line. How far is that?
110 feet, 4 inches?
Approximately, yeah. I think so. It's hard to tell on the
Yeah, I
drawing.
can't tell if that's an inch mark or if that's a foot, so it might be 110.4 feet.
Okay. And the distance that that building is from the road rather, it's not required to be 110 feet, correct?
Correct.
And the request for the building to be moved closer to the road by the township, what was the purpose for that request?
We are currently in the process of updating the zoning ordinance to be consistent with our comprehensive plan, Embrace Mill Creek. And one of the updates that we're looking into is moving everything to like more of a build at line as opposed to a minimum setback. So it would be consistent with where we're moving forward with the zoning ordinance update.
And the way and I drove past this evening, the property hasn't, the building has not been constructed yet. But is there any reason that the property couldn't be developed in conformance with the township's zoning ordinances? Meaning the sign could be constructed in accordance with our requirements?
Yes, they have an exhibit that shows it can be done.
And under the township zoning ordinance, is there anything that prohibited Dollar Tree during the planning process from moving the building closer to the road?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's all I have for you, Mr. Puz. And he may have some additional questions.
And I have one if he
Oh,
doesn't.
And certainly.
Well, that's before the advocate asks. Matthew, there's no issue with the number of parking spaces on this property, is that correct?
Correct. It does meet all the applicable
Okay.
zoning regulations.
Now, again, I'm going to ask you to answer this based on your experience as code officer. If the building were moved closer to the road sufficiently to bring the, under the formulae that are being used, the size of the signage down to something that complies with the ordinance, could the parking be reconfigured toward the rear of the lot and still retain the same number of spaces, in your opinion?
I will say there is a slope at the back. As I'm not an engineer, I can't really say if all the parking spaces would fit back there,
Right,
but I would think you'd be able to get a good portion of them.
okay. You may or may not need a variance for parking, you're not sure, is that correct?
Correct, yes. I'm unable to.
Without some engineering, okay,
Mhm.
fair enough. Okay, that's all I had.
Mr. Puz, is there anything in the code currently that requires a 30-foot setback?
The minimum front yard setback is 30 feet.
So it's 30 feet.
Mhm.
But is there anything, and thank you for clarifying that, is there anything that requires it currently? As you said that the code is being updated to reflect the master plan. Is there anything at this time that requires it to be at 30 feet?
No.
And I'll apologize to the board because I was not involved at all with the land development process. I don't know if that was Coca or who handled that. I'm solely here on the sign variance. Mr. Cruz, are you aware of any issues with respect to site development based upon the need for deliveries via tractor trailers to how a building is sited?
I did see, let me think here. I did see where they showed the, ingress egress of the proposed delivery trucks. So I do understand that.
I don't think ingress or egress of tractor trailers or any of that plays a part. What we're being here tonight to consider only is the request for a sign that does not meet the township size requirement. So I'd like not to stray too far afield on that.
Understood. I just was attempting to, issues have been raised with regard to the land development plan. that I was unaware of, and I just wanted to make sure we clarified this. No issue. I don't have any other questions for Mr. Poos.
Lydia, did you want to bring Mr. Waldinger into this as well?
I do want to bring Mr. Waldinger into
Okay.
this.
Matt, why don't you could bring that chair up a little more? You can sit near Lydia's microphone perhaps.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Then we'll reach.
Won't reach.
We got it.
I guess I'll introduce myself now. I'm Matthew Waldinger. I'm the Director of Planning and Development for Mill Creek Township, 3608 West 26th Street, Erie, PA.
Thank you, Mr. Waldinger, and thank you for introducing yourself. That was my next question. Could you please state your occupation for the record?
Yes, I'm the Director of Planning and Development,
And how long have you acted in that capacity?
3 years.
And what was your position before that?
I was the Land Development Coordinator for the township for 5 years prior to that.
And have you reviewed the proposed permit application submitted by Anchor Sign on behalf of Dollar Tree?
I have looked at it, yes.
And does the township oppose the variance requested by Anchor Sign on behalf of Dollar Tree?
Yes, we do.
And why is that?
The township went through a fairly extensive comprehensive plan process starting in 2016, culminating in a new comprehensive plan in 2018. The result of that, or the resulting document came about from a large effort of the township to engage the public, find out their preferences, find out the direction that they'd like to see Mill Creek Township go in the future. Two of the main things that came from that plan were the fact that they would like to see the corridors improved, and the way they'd like to see them improved would be parking to the side and rear of buildings and signage to be reduced to eliminate visual clutter. So as was correctly stated by Mr. Puz, the code has not yet been updated to require the build to requirements to bring buildings closer to the road. We have updated the signage requirements to permit smaller signs that are more in line with the aesthetic that the public wishes to see in Mill Creek Township going forward.
And Mr. Waldinger, just to clarify, when you're referencing the corridor, does that include West Ridge Road and West 26th Street?
Yes, West 26 West Ridge Road was one of the main corridors that was part of the study.
And with respect to the proposed guidelines and new regulations that will be coming out, at this point, they're not currently in place, correct?
Well, the sign code has, or the sign portion of the zoning code has been updated with the regulations that are in effect today. But no, the other portions as far as, building setbacks and those changes have not yet been adopted.
And the purpose of the township's opposition is really to make sure that we're consistent going forward?
Correct, yes. We've changed the zoning, the zoning code to reflect the new signage requirements, and we are trying to hold those so that as the properties either develop or redevelop, the signs change over to something that's more in line with the comprehensive plan.
And to your knowledge, have there been similar variance requests for sign variances in the township?
There are at least 2 that I can think of where people have made requests since the new sign ordinance.
And have those requests been granted?
Neither of those have been granted.
Mr. Waldinger, that's all the questions I have for you.
Thank you.
Mr. Councilman Hazel.
Just for clarification, sir, when you say that they were not granted, were they not granted by this board?
Yes, that's correct.
I understand you testified that the new planning code is based upon aesthetics. Was safety taken into account as part of that?
Specifically as
Was
regards
there a safety
to...
study done as part of the planning process with respect to the size of signs?
No, there was not.
Was that ever a consideration as part of it as opposed to aesthetics?
Well,
To your knowledge, as being part of the process that you testified that you've been part of for over 12 years?
yes. No, there was no safety study undertaken in development of the sign code.
Was there any other consideration of safety if there wasn't a study done?
Well, the township always takes safety into consideration. We're not attempting to do anything that would be unsafe to the traveling public, but no specific studies based on safety, no.
Were there any traffic studies done with respect to safety and signs?
Comprehensively, as part of the planning, the comprehensive plan process, no. The township does require them for certain developments, various developments throughout the township.
But I was asking specifically with respect to the planning process that you were just discussing.
No, there was not.
This Westbridge Road is a state highway, isn't that correct?
That is correct.
Was PennDOT consulted as part of this planning process with respect to signs or anything along those lines?
Members of PennDOT were stakeholders and did participate in the planning process, yes.
With respect to signs?
With respect to not specifically signs, with the entire comprehensive plan.
Well, you say the entire, you testified earlier that there wasn't any actual consideration or study with respect to signage and safety, is that correct?
I said there was no specific safety study done in preparation of the comprehensive plan, but signs were considered and discussed during the planning process, and PennDOT was a stakeholder during that process.
And your testimony was that it was aesthetics that were considered with respect to signs?
I said that was one of, yes, that was my testimony, that aesthetics did play a part in that when we did visual preference surveys with the township residents.
Were the township residents in those surveys asked about safety and their consideration of safety with respect to signs?
That specific question, no.
I have nothing further.
Mr. Waldiger, I do have one question following up all that. If there had ever been any questionnaires about safety, each location would require its own specific safety review. Would that not be correct?
Depending on the size of the development and the amount of traffic, yes, each one would require their own traffic impact study and safety plan.
Okay. Thank you for that.
In regards to your concerns about safety, I've not obviously just received it, haven't gone through it in high detail, but I've skimmed through this. The nuts and bolts of this document we presented are about sign legibility. Basically, you want a motorist driving by to see that it's a Dollar Tree and stop. This isn't a safety manual on signs. That's not how it's presented. Certainly, there's no headings for that. That's not the main purpose of this document. It's listed as sign legibility rules of thumb. It's not, this isn't sign safety standards.
It certainly does discuss safety in multiple places, particularly with respect to parallel signs, I believe at pages 14 through 18. And the testimony of Mr. McElvaney, who's had over a decade of experience in the industry, is that this is what is used for those calculations. And, well, I can't give testimony, so I'm not going to. But from a safety perspective, on a 5-lane road where things are flying by relatively quickly, I also drove past the site again tonight. I'd driven past it during the day, but this was the first time I had the opportunity to drive by at night. You're going by at a relatively fast speed on a night like tonight, and someone misses that turn off into it and slams on their brakes, you're creating a safety hazard.
Has the speed limit of the road changed since this property was purchased?
I do not know that, sir.
Has it changed from a 2-lane road to a 5-lane road since the property was purchased?
I do not know that.
I guess my point of those questions are, the characteristics have remained the same. I'm sure Matt Buzz, can you speak to that? Are you aware of any speed limit or roadway size changes?
As far as the size of the road, it's remained that since I've been here for 3 years. I'm assuming that the speed limit hasn't changed, but I can't speak to that. I don't have anything that...
To clarify
Yeah,
Mr. Tanner's question, I'd like to go one step further. When was the property purchased?
I do not know the answer to that question. As I stated, I was not involved with the
Okay.
land development.
Does the gentleman with the sign company know when the property may have been purchased?
We can ask Josh, I don't.
Does the township know when the property was purchased?
If I may,
Yes.
in flipping to the application packet, there should be some references to the, property assessment information, and I don't know, it doesn't, I apologize, it doesn't appear to be the
Actually,
most
yeah.
up-to-date address or purchase date. The last purchaser was in 2014 to Amos Stoltzfus, but it does, I thought it would have been a more recent purchase.
Scott, you have something?
Don't I recall that we had a variance for Dollar Tree on the opposite side within this past year? Maybe
That was withdrawn, I believe.
You're
It was
correct.
withdrawn, but, so I would assume the purchase has been.
Well,
Okay.
Again, the reason, to Mr. Tanner's point, if the property has been recently purchased, did Dollar Tree take into consideration the potential safety issues that you're referencing?
I can't answer that question because I'm not aware. I don't have any information either way.
Okay. Rich?
Yeah, just one final question for council. If your client's request is denied, what would they do? Specifically, would they abandon the site, or would they build a conforming sign?
I don't know the answer to that question because they don't know the answer to that question. I have had that conversation with the Director of Development. As council noted, the solicitor noted for the township, the building has not been built yet. And I don't know how far along it is, but they would have to reevaluate it at that point. I will say there have been situations in other places where an inability to obtain a safe and appropriate visible sign has caused them to change their development plan.
Okay, and you don't know if your client's closed on the property yet, or you do?
I don't know the answer to this. I'm not sure. I know the property is being developed by Coca, and I'm just not sure. I'm not sure if they're the people who closed on it or if it was Dollar Tree. So
Well,
we asked
well-
the question that way.
Well, whoever's paying for it, whether they're gonna rent it from them or whether they're buying it themselves, your client's buying it itself, though. You don't know whether they've already expended the necessary amount of money to invest in this site. You don't know?
Obviously, there's been some work. Obviously, there's been work.
Well, right.
No doubt about that. So there's been some investment. Whether or not the investment has passed the point of no return, I can't speak to that, but I do know, as I said, they have stopped development at times. in the past.
Fair enough, you don't know, thank you.
Another question relating, again, safety was brought up. In today's world of electronics, if people are actually looking for a store where they don't know, don't they typically plug it into their phone or into their GPS system to get the address that will direct them to it?
I am not an expert on how people navigate, though I will say that it is common, in my personal experience, to use mapping apps.
Okay. So that could be one of the solutions, the fact that a mapping app would be able to direct people to this, that they'd know, their car would be telling them and their phone would be telling them when they're approaching this location.
I am not an expert, so I can't say whether or not.
Okay. Lydia, do you have something?
Just one final point of clarification. On the Exhibit A that I provided to you, it's on the upper, first page, upper left-hand corner. It says owner's plat certificate. And it indicates that the owner of the property is the Mr. Stoltzfus that I mentioned earlier, and that he purchased the property in 2014.
So who is he?
Well, do you know, counsel, do you know whether your client is gonna lease this from that individual?
I do not know that. It would not, to answer what I anticipate would be your next question, it would not be unusual for it to be structured that way, but I do not know as I'm standing here.
Okay.
Because the question, does anybody have standing
Well,
here?
that's exactly what I was gonna ask next. Why does your client have standing? If you don't have a lease, you don't own it, you don't have a contract to buy it, or you can't prove that any of those things are true.
According to the Erie County website, property was transferred on November 19th from Stoltzfus to FIDC 106 LLC, which is the applicant for the Dollar Tree Land Development Plan.
So the property is actually conveyed to them?
That's according to Erie County's official
Okay. Oh,
website
there you go.
on
Now we
November
know.
19th.
So you do
Dollar
have
Tree owns
standing.
it. Dollar Tree owns it, according to that.
According to that, the applicant for the land development plan,
It's an-
FIDC.
That would be an SPE, but yes, yeah, a special purpose entity.
Okay, well, that's a matter of public record. We can take judicial notice of that. I mean, I can verify it myself, but
Yep.
at the courthouse, but okay, so they do own it, which resolves any standing concerns that we have. It also means that they bought the thing.
So I do have another question. If the board would not make a decision tonight, would you be amenable to, because our next meeting is not until the end of January, would you be amenable to a decision being made that late, or do you want to hold us within the 45 days? And again, I'm not sure what we're going to do, but I want to ask a question because of the way the calendar dates are falling now.
Understood. Could I ask Mr. McElvaney, because I know he, probably more recently than I had a conversation. I haven't asked my client the question. He may know the answer to that.
That's fine. Is he still on the phone?
Yeah.
Good.
Josh, do you know the answer to that question? Would it be possible for Dollar Tree to wait until the end of January for a decision, or do they need a decision tonight?
Based on the date that I have for their forecasting schedule, the end of January would be acceptable.
Okay.
Well, we need somebody speaking for the client, not him. I mean, he's a witness. I mean, you can represent the client's acceptance of that, because we'll be outside 45 days if we do that.
Right, but that's because of your schedule.
Correct,
And I understand.
correct.
Josh, if you could give me like an attempt to reach someone, I don't know the answer to that question as I'm standing here.
Okay, and that's a fair answer, but yeah.
Yeah, we can take a recess while you make a phone call. Please do it as quickly as you can.
Yeah, I'll do my best. Okay.
Let's make sure we're done with
Does
testimony.
anybody else have any questions at this time regarding this? If not, maybe a 5-minute recess to see if you can get the answer to this question?
I'll do my best.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Way to control the room, Mike, way to control.
We gave him 5 minutes,
I think the question is,
We can go ahead and do your recess for deliberation, and if he gets a hold of this guy, I have to try and tell us what he said.
all right,
is he coming back in?
He has him on the phone, he said he in as soon as possible.
Well, that's,
So
not
that's
gonna
up
work.
to you, that's.
Well, why don't you just recess and go in and? What do you want to do?
Any objections?
yeah, well, we got what we need.
Let's recess, and actually, we're going to make the decisions tonight, since we can't apparently get an answer from the phone call, because he's past the 5 minutes that I had
Oh, yeah,
granted.
I mean, we could be here for, you probably gotta check up the corporate chain or some damn thing,
Okay.
like it's earth shattering.
And there's nothing else from the township for this case?
No.
Okay. All right, let's take some time to recess then. Can we get into the room?
What he'll find out is, if he loses his appeal, it's gonna take a lot more than 45 days to resolve.
Okay. Who do we have on the phone first?
Oh, yeah.
That might be the attorney for the,
Yes, this is the attorney for the Tri-State
for the
Mobile
tri-state.
Okay, so this is.
He wanted to listen.
32, 33, and 34.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I believe it's,
Okay.
10,
Okay. Let the record reflect that at 9:56, we returned. Do we have the attorney on the phone? Hello? Hello? Could you identify yourself, please, for the record?
Yes, my name is Kenneth Holt, F as in Frank, O-L-T-Z.
And name and address, please?
Address is 525 William Penn Place, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15219.
Okay, thank you. Okay, as it relates to appeals 2031, 2032, 2033, and 2034, do I have a motion, and we're going to take all four at once?
I'll make a motion to approve with the following stipulation that relates to all four variance requests. A 6-foot tall chain link fence with no gates to be installed along the eastern property line and the northern property line from the eastern corner to the east side of Tacky Drive by June 1st.
And that starts at 15th Street or
The eastern end of,
the south side of the eastern end?
the south side of the eastern end,
Okay,
which is 15th Street, yes.
okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second that approval with the qualifications.
Okay, all in favor of approving 2031, 32, 33, and 34 with the stipulation as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 20-31, 32, 33, and 34 are approved. Okay, so now what Matt, we have to get the other parties on the phone?
no.
No? Okay, so now I'm going to move to appeal number 20-36. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor of approving 20-36, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 20-36 has been approved. Appeal number 20-37, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Appeal 20-37.
And do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor of approving 20-37, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 20-37 has been approved. I'll make a motion to deny Appeal 20-38. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of denying Appeal 20-38, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 20-38 has been denied. That being said, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas to everybody. Now, I have
Good
some
night.
things to sign.
I'm in a zoning board, we just finished, so just give me 5 minutes, I'll call you back.